Hey y'all, so I just got back from my trip from Mexico. I do look a little crazy, y'all. It's the next day and I just got back to Philly. But I'm here to basically tell y'all my experience in Tulum and tell y'all do not ever go. Don't go to Mexico, y'all. It's so dangerous. It's unsafe. Don't go. Take my experience and learn from it. So our B&B was nice, y'all. This is some pictures of it. Just really beautiful overall, not gonna lie. So the reason why I stayed in a B&B and not a resort is because it was supposed to be 8 of us on the trip, but only 7 of us ended up coming, whatever, cool. But either way, I did enjoy the B&B experience, and I am glad because maybe that helped us experience less injustice. Now, it might be different for other people, but I enjoyed my Airbnb and the services rendered. Now, when we first got to Mexico, the first issue that we encountered was the rental. If you know, they make you bid for business. They all be trying to, oh, come with me, come with me. I give you discount, I give you best deal. So at first, y'all, we went to Enterprise to bid for business. They told us that they were going to give us a 8-passenger truck, and they were going to give it for $600, $500, which is literally not bad at all. But where they get you at is that once you leave the airport, you cannot come back in, which is the strangest thing that I've ever heard. Think about it. In your city, when you leave an airport, do they not let you come back in? Wow. So whatever rental place you pick, they have shuttle buses to take you to where the cars is at. And you cannot get back into the airport through certain ways. Like, you literally have to go around the entire airport to get into certain ways. And where the rental cars is at, you cannot get back into the exact place where all the rental car places are bidding for your business. So we gets there, and for one, they did not give us the right truck. They literally scammed us, and they literally played that role like they were going to give us an 8-passenger. At first, they tried to give us a 5-passenger truck. Then the 8-passenger truck that they gave us, the truck was literally so small that 8 suitcases weren't going to fit at all. And at that point, it was like, we might as well just take it because we tried to get excursions done the first day, but that was stopping us up. The whole rental process, it was just too much. Whole time, y'all, then they try to get us to say they don't take they don't take debit cards. They need a credit card for their down deposit. So we had to go back to the airport, and we had to wait for somebody from a different rental company to come outside where the taxis and stuff is, and we had to talk to them. So we ended up going with Hertz. They gave us another bullshit car. Literally, the car speakers and the music was like staticky. It was just bullshit. It was literally bullshit. And they don't even let you try out the car before you buy it. They literally just make you buy the car. Then they pull up in the car and just give it to you. That's it. That's all. But at that point, y'all, like I said, not only were we in desperate measures, but we needed a car to get around. So it was just like, we just want to take what we got to take. Then our friends are literally looking for us, y'all. They're not letting them get to Terminal 3. They're in Terminal 4, y'all. They're literally right across. They could literally see us from the windows outside of their terminal. And they would not let them come out the terminal. So they literally had to wait, and sorry to say it, but run out to get to us because they would not let them out. They kept telling them, yeah, you can only get out if you're taking a taxi or if you're renting. Like, everything with them is money. Money, 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 money. Let's try to see how we could get this money. Other than that, the rest of the trip went smooth. I had a lot of fun. Nice restaurants, a couple other restaurants was crappy that we tried. It was just one restaurant that was terrible. It's called La Taquera. Really terrible, really nasty. Do not recommend. But other than that, though, everything else was good. Cool. So the last day, we agreed to go to the airport at 6 o'clock in the morning just because we did not know the check-in process. We'll check bags. We're in a different country. We're just trying to make sure that we get there on time at the right time. Lo and behold, our Airbnb is in the jungle, like in the forest, so it's no roads. Tulum is not fully built, if you know, you know. So they only have main roads, no service, and like where the Airbnbs and stays be at, because it just be dirt, rocks, mud. It's no roads, no streets, no nothing. Just paved roads with, I guess, mud, dirt, rocks, tree branches, all types of stuff that you will find in a jungle or a place like that. Cool, we're riding. Of course, our tire pops. So my boyfriend gets down, he tries to fix the tire, and he got everything right perfectly. The rental car gave us these corny tools to fix a tire, so that was already taking up a lot of time, literally. It was just so much going on, y'all. That's when we finally get done with the whole tire situation, y'all. It was just so much. And we get to go ride back to the airport. We're like, okay, we can still make it, y'all. We had like an hour or two left. We can still make it at this point. Come on, let's just have high energy. We're not even at this point worried about missing our flight because we're looking at the GPS and the time is saying that we're going to make it before our flight. Of course, another problem comes. They stop us at a checkpoint where like these cops are at with the AK-47. You might as well say the cartel. Call it spade to spade. They stop us, y'all. They let all the cars pass. And of course they stop us and pull us over. It's a checkpoint. It's like a toll. But people are standing there with guns, basically telling you if you could go or if, like, you have to get pulled over to get an inspection. So they're inspecting our car and saying that we're breaking laws because we don't have a seatbelt on, which is respectable. But then they're saying we're breaking laws because we're lapping it up because the suitcases are taking up so much room in the back that we had to put one of the rows down in the seats and, like, had to sit on each other's lap. So they tell my mom, get out the car after asking for the registrations, the license, y'all. She's doing everything that they're asking. They tell her to step out the car. At this point, everybody's heart is beating because y'all got these big guns. The man is clutching on the trigger. What are y'all going to do to my mom? Like, it was such a scary experience. And it was just uncomfortable. Then y'all barely speaking English. Y'all just, like, it's just weird. Like, y'all just picking at this point. So she tells my mom, yeah, pay $400 or you go to jail. Why would somebody want to go to jail? And that's messed up because what if somebody don't have $400 and you're not supposed to do that? That's like a cop pulling you over and say, yeah, pay $400 or you go to jail. What? So they tell her, yeah, pay $400 or you go to jail. They're going to say, yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll do you a favor and give you a 50% off discount. What? What are y'all talking about? So then my mom like, okay, I don't have cash. Like, I only carry card. We don't take card. Yeah, y'all don't because y'all know that those transactions are going to show. And that's illegal. You're not supposed to do that. So then they like, yeah, go over there, get the money and come back by yourself. They told my mom to come back by herself. What? Like, what is wrong with these people, y'all? And then they took my mom ID basically as a way to tell her, like, yeah, you have no other choice but to come back. We have your information. We have your ID. So my mom goes to get the money, and she walks back by herself, and my heart is literally beating, y'all. I get out of the car, and me and my boyfriend, we watching my mom from a distance because at this point, like, we're panicking. People in the car is literally mad that they're about to miss their flight, and all I'm worried about, truthfully, is the fact that something could happen to my mom. Simple. Like, this man is walking over with an AK-47 clutching his gun. It's just too much. Like, I've never been in a situation like this before. So they ain't gonna tell my mom, put it down, put your hand down. Basically saying, put your hand down so nobody see what's going on. Give me the money down low so nobody knows what's going on. And as he tells my mom to put her hand down, like, he pointing the gun, like, basically, like, directing the gun to put her hands down. Like, that's saying, yeah, no other checkpoints will stop you because you already paid. Lo and behold, we get stopped by another checkpoint. Like, at this point, I'm literally irritated. I'm literally so irritated. Like, I'm irked. Then we get to the airport. We're rushing. They gave us injustice. We had to book a whole nother flight, y'all. We had to stay at the airport. We're at Starbucks. Starbucks closed at 9 o'clock in the airport. 10 o'clock p.m. in the airport. And then they had the audacity to say that their airport closes at 9 p.m. I never heard of an airport closing. I thought all airports was 24/7. And it was other people, y'all, that was going through the same thing. They were kicking them out the airports. Literally, basically saying, like, they don't have a hotel, no car, no rental. Because at that point, you already returned your car. You already checked out your hotel, checked out your Airbnb. You just have to sleep outside till the airport opens up again. I don't know, find a way. It's basically what they tell you. That's so cruel. Then on the way back, they basically put, like, a warning on my friend to basically say, like, she's danger, check her. So every time we went through TSA at another airport, they pulled her in the room with cops, checked her down, checked her bag, scanned her phone, did all of this stuff for no reason, y'all. No reason. They checked my boyfriend, literally dumped out the stuff in his bag, patted him down, patted his dreads down, saying that, why? Because he's black with tattoos? That he was that they were scared that he was going to bring in cocaine. Then they don't talk English. They talk Spanish. So everything that you do, they get over on you. If they know that you don't talk Spanish and they know that you're not from here, they get over on you. They look at it like, oh yeah, we about to get this money. Then they made my boyfriend miss the shuttle buses, y'all. When we were at first of all, I forgot to tell y'all. When we were literally at the rental car, returning our car, they kept talking on the speakers, making the shuttle buses go past us. We put our we put our airports in this one shuttle bus. This Mexican man took all of our bags out, all of our luggage out the shuttle bus and pulled off on us. And we kept telling them that we were in an urgency to get to the airport. So if you're stuck in a situation like that, don't tell them. Because then they do stuff to hold you back up so that you can stay in their country and spend more money and buy another ticket. They are all working together to get more money from tourists. And that is not okay. I understand that your country is kind of poor, but you do not get over on other people. It's simple.
This is not a reason to ghost someone. I don't know what it is, but this girl said she was dating this guy, and they were dating for like 3 months. She met him on a dating app, but it was going well. They were exclusive, all that. They were living in Mount Shasta, California, which she said a lot of people there have like weird beliefs, like fringe beliefs into Lemurians and vortex energy, UFOs, things like that. And I'm not saying you're weird if you believe in these things. I'm just saying these are like fringe beliefs. They're not widely accepted as truth, right? Like, we all know I have some weird beliefs. Her ex, who she's calling Kay for this story, worked the graveyard shift, and he's already on kind of a weird sleep schedule because he works nights, and so they don't meet up as much as she would in a normal relationship because she works days, so they're just kind of on opposite schedules. And one of the things that they initially bonded about was their mutual respect for spirituality and different beliefs. But eventually Kay starts getting really into the idea of lucid dreaming and astral projection, and he starts wearing sleep masks and doing these guided meditations as he's falling asleep in order to induce these sleep paralysis or astral projection journeys. And he starts keeping a dream journal, which is very normal, just normal dream things. But then he starts talking to her about how he's having these encounters with what he calls the Hat Man, which is just this dark silhouette figure that wears a wide brim hat. He seems really excited the first time it happens, and he basically tells her, oh, I met this entity that's going to help me ascend and like become better and all of these things. And she just kind of thinks like he's making it up because he wants something to happen from these astral projection trips so bad. Then it progresses and he wants to talk about it like all the time, and she's getting kind of annoyed because she's like, I'm into it, but I'm not that into it, you know. Then it sounded like he was just trying to make up this like horror fantasy for himself, and she humored him, but she really didn't believe it until the night she saw it too. About a month after he started talking about the Hat Man, she woke up in the middle of the night. It was one of the nights she was spending at his house when their schedules aligned, and she wakes up and she feels like someone's sitting on her chest, and at the end of the bed she sees this tall silhouette figure wearing a hat. She couldn't move, and she was hearing this buzzing in her ears, and she heard it breathing. Said even though it felt real, she realized she was having an episode of sleep paralysis, but then she heard it say, don't look in the water, and that snaps her awake. She sits up in bed, and Kay is sitting up in bed wide awake just looking at her. She said, oh my god, I had this horrible nightmare, and he's just smiling at her, and he's like, so you met him? Now she gets back to bed, but she said from that day Kay started acting different. He started wearing these long black trench coats. You know, fashion's fashion, but then she said he would just watch her from random places in his apartment whenever she was over at his house. She would find him in the bathroom talking to himself in the dark. He started sleepwalking. Once found him outside sitting in the middle of the lawn at like 2 a.m. when it was raining, just sitting there. Anytime she spent the night at Kay's house, she would have these horrible nightmares. So she's like, you know what, I need some space. Their schedules were a little bit misaligned anyway, so she tells him like, hey, I'm gonna take some time to myself. You know, we're not breaking up, but like, I just don't want to stay at your house for a little bit. 2 weeks go by, she's still texting him, but she's just not seeing him as much. And one day he just calls her and he's like, hey, I had another experience with the Hat Man last night. He told me I was chosen. She's like, I think you're taking this too far. And he's like, no, he only shows up to people who already want to know him, and he wants you to meet him too. He tells her, oh yeah, he liked your energy the night that you met him when you were in my room. And she's like, you know what, I think that this is bordering on delusion. I think you need to take a step back from this. It doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't make me feel good. And he's like, so you don't want to meet him? And she's like, no, I don't want anything to do with this. And he's like, okay, then I really do think we need a break. And she's like, cool. A couple of weeks go by, you know, they end up reconnecting. He had reached out apparently and said like, I think I took it too far. I'm sorry. I won't make this such a big part of our relationship anymore. She's like, cool. Start spending the night at his house again. He was working security. She said she didn't like tell me exactly what his job title was, but she said it was something with ground patrol around Shasta Lake where like really wealthy people live. So his shifts were usually 10 p.m. to like 4 or 5 in the morning. There were a couple nights where she would stay over at his house when he was working, and he would come home and he would smell like smoke, even though his job had nothing to do with fire. Wood smoke, not like, you know, any other kind of smoke. She would ask him like, what is that smell? And he's like, oh, it's just the fog. And she's like, I'm not an idiot. Like, fog doesn't smell like wood smoke. So this one night she's over at his house. He says he has to go to work, even though he was supposed to be off that night. Like, they had dinner. It was like 7 p.m. He's like, I have to go to work at 10. She's like, I thought you were off. He's like, well, I have to go in now. She's pretty much convinced that he's cheating at this point for whatever reason. She said he had also like kept his phone face down a lot of the time when she was around. She's like, okay, whatever, I guess I'll just stay here until you get off work. And after he leaves for work, she starts like looking around on his computer and stuff to figure out if he's like cheating. She starts seeing that he has researched a bunch, like something called the Shasta Shadow. I've never heard of this. And the message, don't look in the water, which was weird because that's what she heard that figure say to her in her state of sleep paralysis like a month prior. But around 1:30 that night, she gets a text from him that just says help. There was no punctuation and no follow-up. So she calls him 3 times and he doesn't answer. She starts to spiral. She's like, maybe he meant to send it to somebody else. Like maybe he's cheating. I don't know. She decides she's going to drive to his post at his job. She said the office was on this property that overlooks Lake McLeod. So she parks and she walks a little bit through the trees, and that's when she sees him standing like knee deep in the water. She said he was in his full security uniform and he was talking to something. There was another figure in the water standing next to him wearing this hat. And she said at first she thought it was like just a shadow or a trick of the light, but she watched, and even when he moved, it didn't move, and he seemed to be mouthing something to it. She said she's just standing there watching him, like she couldn't make sense of what she was seeing, and that's when he turned his head and looked at her and smiled. She said she was a distance from him, like there was no way he could have known that she was there. Like they didn't have each other's location, but the way that he looked at her just chilled her to the bone. So she just turned around, she ran, drove back to his apartment, packed a bag, and left. That she blocked him, has not talked to him since, but a week ago she gets a message from a different number, not his number, and it's just a grainy video of water with somebody whispering, "Don't look in the water." She said that text came at like 4 a.m, and so she didn't see it until she woke up. But then the next night she had this horrible bout of sleep paralysis where she saw the Hat Man again. She said it's continued all week. She said, "I know I'm probably just making it up in my head, but I feel like I'm spiraling and I just needed to tell someone, don't use my name." She said, "I really think there is something to the Hat Man sightings or like lore." She wants to know if anyone knows anything about the Hat Man in Mount Shasta or anywhere around it. I don't know much about the Hat Man, but if you've had an experience, if you have any words for her, let me know. If you have a spooky scary story, I would love to read it.
No, stop. Let's have a real conversation. Imagine this. Imagine you telling yourself you're going to date safe. You're going to just, take your time, this, that, and the other. But then you meet somebody in close proximity around where you stay. And he's nice. He's cool. He's chill. He's just your type. But in the beginning, you give him no play because you're focused. You're minding your business. So every time he speaks, you just give him a light hey. And every time he tries to stop you and have a conversation, you're like, "Oh, I got to go." Because you really have to go. You're a busy person. So time goes on. You're bringing in the groceries, hypothetically. And he's like, "Oh, you need help with that?" You're like, "No, sweets. Oh, I got it." You're like, "No, let me help you with that." Like, stop. So you're like, "Okay, whatever. Let him in. All right, cool." And so as you stop to say thank you, he says, "I've really been trying to get your attention," which you already know, but you're on your own zone. So you're like, "I know, I'm just a busy woman." He's like, "Let me take you out, blah, blah, blah." And so you all get acquainted just a little bit. Y'all start to kick it a little bit. Like, he's cool. Nothing crazy. And so one day he says, "You want to come over and watch a movie? We stay in close proximity. Why not?" And you're like, "You know what? Let me stop being so hard up. It's cool. Like, yeah, I'll do that." Y'all have hung out. Y'all have got to know each other. It's kind of cool. What if this happened to you? And let's just say as y'all were watching a movie, you're laying on his chest and you're just leaning. And he says in a real smooth way, "So is that light you keep on your living room light or your bedroom light?" So as you're laying there on his chest, you couldn't have possibly heard him correctly because you stay somewhere far, far off, secluded, even though it's in close proximity. So you say, "What you say?" And he says again, "So is that light you keep on your living room light or your bedroom light?" So now you laying on his chest thinking to yourself, how would anybody see that light? He said, "Look, as you're laying there on his chest, I've been watching you for a long time. What do you do? I've been liking you for a long time. Now this you know, but you don't know where it's gonna go next. There's some days I see you leave out every day, and I think to myself, if I ever had her, I would." And you waiting, but he doesn't say no more. Now as a woman, you're in a position where you cannot run, you cannot go anywhere. You're in their house, in their territory. So he continues, "Yeah, I would see you sometimes with your dress on, going to stores and stuff." And you're thinking to yourself, how would you see me at the store? Around the way is cool, but at the store? And as you laying on his chest, he goes further and says, "Sometimes I would screenshot your toes on your Instagram because your toes, you always got them white." Oh, snap. Part two.
This is the scariest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life, and I wasn't even planning on making a video today, but I feel like I need to get out of my system because I have been welling up with tears and having full body chills from being scared. If you know me in real life, that never happens to me, so I feel like I just need to get out of my system. So this is that story. This happened 4 years ago. I was a freshman in college, and I was talking to this boy at the time, and he caught me when I was coming home for the weekend from college, and he asked if he could take me stargazing. I say yes. He picks me up. It's maybe 11, 12 o'clock at night. He drives me to the state park specifically because I had never been before. And specific to note about this state park next to my hometown, it isn't, when I say in the middle of nowhere, I legitimately mean in the middle of nowhere. The closest gas station is like multiple miles away. Nobody lives near there. Yeah, you get the gist. So we get there, he originally parks in front of this watchtower. We're walking up the watchtower. Something to note about me, you're gonna learn about two of my fears today. I am afraid of heights. The tower starts shaking from the small amount of wind, and I immediately am like, "Hey, I don't like this. We're about halfway up. I don't like this. Let's go down." So he's like, "Okay, I actually thought you might be scared, so I have an alternate way for us to go look at the stars, but we have to walk through the woods." Usually, and before I get any comments about that, I know, okay? I know. The only reason why I went is because he was like, "It's like a minute and a half through the woods." Perfect. A minute and a half. No worries. I shouldn't have listened to him because it was a 10-minute walk, if not more. It is so dark in those effing woods that you cannot even see your hand in front of your face. I'm walking through the woods. I'm doing fine. My other fear is the dark. Okay, I'm a full-grown woman. I am exponentially scared of the dark. Like, unrealistically scared of the dark. We're walking, we hit a fence. And not just any fence, a barbed wire fence. By this time, my eyes are fully adjusted in the dark, and out in the distance, I can see a barn. Right next to the barn, I see a big silo, and if you don't know what a silo is, it's just this big metal structure that holds corn where I'm from. A lot of farmers have them. And I immediately ask him, is this someone's land? He doesn't really answer me, and I'm like, no, seriously, is this someone's land? Because I'm not going to get shot tonight. Because where I'm from, they're not going to ask you on their 5 acres of land what you're doing on their land. They're just going to shoot you because they don't know who you are at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Or I guess what you are. So finally he tells me it's someone's land, and I'm like, I'm not trespassing on someone's land. Like, no thanks. 3 strikes and you're out. I've walked through the woods. I have tried to conquer my fear of heights, and I'm walking in the dark. No. This is no. So finally he's like, okay, fine. Like, we'll go back to the car and I'll drive you home. As we're walking, I don't know what it was. The hair on the back of my neck suddenly stood up. I start to feel like someone is watching me. And all my girlies with anxiety like me, you know what I'm talking about. But this was different. This was different. This was like burning 2 holes in the back of my head because they're staring so hard. And it was so bad that I kept turning around, and there was literally no one there. My eyes are fully adjusted at this point. There is no one there that I can see. And I start walking so close to this dude that I'm flat tiring his shoes, which means I'm like stepping on the back of his shoes every couple of steps, and he's getting super mad at me. But eventually I just grab his arm and I say, there is something out here with us. And I made sure to whisper it because at the end of the day, if there is a living human being out there, I don't want them knowing that I feel like something is wrong. And number 2, it was really quiet out there, like deafeningly silent. And he immediately tells me, like, Elena, it's okay, like your anxiety, it's okay. I understand that you're scared of the dark, but everything's gonna be fine. Like, there's no one else out here. There's no other cars. Everything's gonna be fine. We take probably 3 steps and start to hear rustling. And immediately, this is when my breath literally is taken away. Like, I'm like, I can't breathe. And again, he's like rubbing my back, and he's like, it's okay. Like, there is seriously no one else out here. You're gonna be fine. We're walking for maybe a minute. We were flashlights out. From our right, a rock doesn't tumble out. It is thrown out into the middle of the path that we're walking. I mean, like, right in front of us. Like, someone threw it. This was a game time decision, right? Right. I left him in the woods. I ran so fast, I left him in the woods. I have never ran faster in my entire life. And all my running girlies, I ran for a minute. Sprinted for a minute. I get to his car and I'm trying the door handles, and I immediately am going through all these scenarios. I'm like, what am I going to do if if there is a person in the woods? So I'm trying the door handles. I'm going to like literally every door, and all of them are locked. And all of a sudden I hear him giggling and like jogging out of the forest. And he was like, that rabbit really scared me. A rabbit? And I probably look disgusting at this point, but I legitimately lost my mind on him. I was like, since when do rabbits pick up rocks and throw them at people? Since when has that ever happened? But anyways, we get in the car, we drive off. The whole time I'm asking him, what do you think that was? What do you think that was? Do you think that was a real person? Do you think that was a ghost? What was that? And I don't think he took me very seriously at the time, because he was like, whatever. Needless to say, I never talked to him ever again. And now I will elaborate on why it's so scary to me. I don't think that was paranormal by any means. Because when you experience something paranormal, it's almost like an instantaneous thought, right? You're trying to rationalize. You're trying to go through the scenarios in your head on how it is possible that happened. This was different. I have never felt so fearful in my entire life. And let me ask you this. When you get home late at night, maybe after a night out, or when you get home from work, school, etc., what do you think you're going to see when you turn the light on in your room? Probably some decor, probably your bed, your desk, maybe a pet lives there, I don't know. But you anticipate on what you're going to see, because you're prepared for what you're going to see. I'm not comparing bedrooms in the woods, but I was not anticipating someone else to be out there because there's no cars out there. There was no way for someone to get out there if they didn't get there before the sun went down, if you catch my drift. And I think there's something, at the end of the day, there is something so deeply frightening about knowing someone was watching you the whole time. And there is something equally as frightening knowing you never saw them. And then you have to think about a plethora of things. Like, why was that person following two teenagers in the woods without making their presence known? How did that person get out into the middle of the woods in the middle of the night? I left a key part of the effing story out. When we got there and we got our little pass, the state trooper or whoever was working there told us that we were the last people going in. So be that as you may, moral of the story, you never know.
Everyone I know has been telling me that I should tell this story on TikTok because it's the craziest situation ever. So I'm bored enough today that I'm going to do it. So here's the story of the scariest thing that has ever happened to me and a lesson on why you need to take precautions when staying in a hotel, especially by yourself. So I'm in Grand Prairie, Texas for a work trip, which is a suburb of Dallas. I get to the hotel. Everything's fine and normal. I get there and I do shower the first night I'm there. I sleep. I've stayed in that hotel so many times before, and then I go to work the next day. I end up getting back at like 11-ish p.m. and I decide to take another shower because I've been outside all day. I get in the shower and I look out the shower curtain and I'm like, is that a message on the mirror? So I turn off the shower and the steam has steamed up the mirror and there's a message that has been put on the mirror, fingerprint smudged in there. And it said, there's a camera behind here with a little circle with explosions. And so I'm freaking out. I get out of the shower and I call one of my bosses and I'm like, hey, what should I do? And she's like, you need to leave. And so I went down to the front desk and I was like, hey girl, this is really crazy. I have a picture of this. This wasn't here last night when I showered. It's here now. The mirror says there's a camera behind here. This poor 18-year-old girl working the front desk is also freaking out because it's late at night. Keep in mind, I got in at 11 p.m. And she's like, we don't really have another room for you to go to. Our hotel is full, but you can check out. And I was like, yeah, I'll check out. And so I check out and then it gets crazier. So I check out and keep in mind it's late and the only hotel that has openings is 30 minutes away. And it's in a really nice area of Texas called Southlake, Texas. So I get in my rental car and I drive to Southlake, Texas and I check into the hotel and everything's fine and normal. So I go to my room, I sit on my hotel bed and I'm FaceTiming my boyfriend and then the landline phone to the hotel rings, the room. And so I was like, oh, I checked in late. Maybe they need my credit card information or something. So I pick up the phone. On the other end of the phone is an old man's voice. And he was like, hello, I've seen you in Dallas. I wanted to let you know I thought you were pretty, Grace. So he knew my name. So my heart drops to the bottom of my stomach. And the only thing I can tell my boyfriend on the phone is I need to go. I need to leave here right now. Someone is following me. I need to go right now. So I go down to the lobby. And I'm like, I'm going to call the police. So I call the police. The police show up. And they're like, did he make a threat to you on the phone? And I was like, no. I hung up on him before he could tell me more. But he knew my name and where I was. And so they were like, well, he didn't make a threat. So there's nothing we can do. We can ask the hotel to turn over their phone records. But they don't have to. The hotel front desk man was like, we won't show you the phone records, but we'll tell you them. Her room has received no phone calls tonight. And I'm freaking out, crying. I'm like, obviously that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. And the police were like, there's nothing we can do. They checked all my stuff for trackers. There was no trackers on anything. ended up, one of my bosses that same one I called, lived in Texas, so I went to stay at her apartment. But literally what? So stay safe out there. Don't be going to hotels unless you absolutely have to.
Okay, y'all, so here goes a story. So remember how I told y'all I was going to work the day shift? So today I worked the day shift. You know, I'm thinking day shift, no ghosts, no spirits, no nothing. Just day shift stuff. A lot of people there, a lot of services, so on and so forth, right? So I'm sitting up at the front and I had put like a stack of papers on the desk, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. I turn to do something else on my computer. Next thing you know, this whole stack of papers just get knocked off the desk. And I'm like, what the heck? I get up, pick the papers up, put them back where they were, and they get knocked off the desk again. So at this point, I'm like, okay, Casper, give me a sec. Okay, Casper, you're just gonna keep knocking my stuff over. So I put it back on the desk, right? I turn around. 2 seconds later, the papers are flying on the floor again. Flying on the floor again. So I look at the lady on the side of me and I'm like, are you throwing my papers on the floor? And she's like, no, that's George. George is doing that. George is doing that. And I'm like, so who's George? Right? And she's like, oh, it's the daytime ghost spirit that's always up in here, like throwing our papers on the floor, opening doors, putting his hand underneath. If you go to the bathroom, putting his hand underneath the thing and making all the paper just fly out. So I'm like, so y'all have a daytime spirit and y'all named it? Okay, so the name is George. Got it. Cool. George, I'm here today. I introduced myself, right? So George decided that today was going to be the day to pick on me. So because I never worked daytime, hardly ever, my papers were all over the floor. Then when I got up, so I went and got me some coffee, right? Put my little cup on the desk or whatever to drink my coffee. I'm typing on the computer. Did my coffee get knocked onto the floor? So George thought it was going to be, today he was going to try me. Okay. I got to go pick up this coffee, right? I feel him, but I don't see him, if that makes sense, right? I can feel him. I go into the bathroom. I'm going to go get paper towel because I'm like, this makes absolutely no sense. Put my hand under the thing, whoosh, get my paper. As I'm about to walk out, somebody put their hand back under the thing, and next thing you know, all this paper towel just starts coming out. All the paper towel starts coming out. It's coming out so bad, it's going into the trash can at this point. And I'm just like, so I was just like, George, stop. Like, stop. Like, you're making a mess. And he stopped. He stopped doing it. And it just got like super cold in the bathroom. So I'm just like, do we need to have a conversation? So I go back out and I tell the lady, I'm like, listen. She's like, George did it, huh? Yep, he did something with the bathroom. I'm like, yes. Like, y'all don't have control over this daytime guy. Like, he's just a prankster, a jokester. So come to find out, his family, like, when he passed away, his family was like, oh, he always used to play jokes on people. You know, he was a good guy. Da-da-da-da-da. His real name wasn't George when he was living, but that's the name that they gave him, right? So she's like, you know, they told us about him, blah, blah, blah. He's a jokester. He likes to do this, that. He'll mess with you all day. Mind you, when I come in at night, George must be asleep because I have my own little spirits, ghosts that I named a couple of them, but I don't really name them like that because they just be popping up whenever. But I was just like, y'all just let George run rapid up in here, messing up stuff and tearing up stuff. They don't have no control over their daytime spirits, like, at all. And I don't got time for that. So I had to let George know, like, listen, if I'm going to be working days, you can't be doing this to me because it makes it look like I don't know what I'm doing because I'm knocking down papers and spilling coffee and messing up the paper roll. That ain't me. So hopefully the next time I go back, if I ever go back today, George will be on his best behavior because I'm not going to deal with that. So you do get some that are like, that want to play too much, like the nights with the lights, and some that are, I've never ran across a demonic spirit. I don't know. Some people be like, oh, those are demons you're messing with. No, they're not. Some of them are kids. They are not demons. Like, they're not demonic. They're not trying to hurt me. They're not doing anything to, like, bring me into the afterworld with them. They're just one, just lost souls. We'll say that. We'll just call them lost souls. I don't treat them badly. They don't treat me badly. But George, I got something for you.
I like to play a little game at home called Refrigerator Jenga, where I try to remove something from the very back without moving any of the items cluttered in front of it. And it's fun because if I win, I get my item and I feel proud of myself. And if I lose, I spend 40 minutes cleaning up marinara and broken glass off the floor.
So to everybody telling they scary stories about spirits and stuff like that, let me tell y'all about the time I came face to face with a mimic from the theater that I volunteer at. So boom, listen, I'm gonna do this all in one take. So I volunteer at a community theater, and that motherfucker haunted. There's something in that basement that does not like me, and I do not like it. I stay away from the basement. I can't stand the basement. I refuse to go into the basement alone. I would never go into the basement alone. Why? Because that thing that is in the basement makes me feel like it wants to hurt me. I don't have no problems with it, and I stay away from it. He has his problems with me. I don't know what they are, but, it might be because I'm black. Anyway, so there's one night we were staying late from rehearsal. There was me, the stage manager, and my two best friends. So I'll name Madison and Jacob. Girl, hey, how y'all doing? I'll tell y'all in the video. Y'all can confirm that this shit happened. Okay, so me, Madison, and the stage manager, and Jacob, we're all having a kiki. We're cleaning the stage. We're sweeping them up and doing shit. We're having a fun time. We're just being. We end up talking about the ghost stories that they tell during the ghost tour, and the story about the lavender lady in the theater. She comes up. Now they tell this story pretty prevalent. Prevalent is the word? I don't know, but they tell the story a lot. Now, as the story about the lavender lady going on, the stage manager, something reminded her that she needed something from the basement, and she asked Jacob. She's like, "Hey, Jacob, I need something from the basement. Can you go downstairs to grab it?" Jacob's like, "Hell no, I'm not going down there by myself. What if there's an axe murderer?" That's exactly what he said. I swear to God, that's exactly what he said. And then she was like, "Well, take Marquis." And he was like, "Well, Marquis," I was like, "No, I'm not going down there. I don't like that basement. That basement don't like me. I'm not going down them stairs." Long story short, Jacob ended up bribing me with a damn tequila sunrise, and I ended up going anyway. Like a dummy. So we end up going downstairs, and we end up finding what we're looking for. And as we are about to leave the damn prop room, we see this figure standing in the doorway. We both look, and in unison, I swear on my granny ashes, we say, "Ow!" at the same time. Because it was just standing there, solid figure. It dips off, it disappears. We run up the stairs. We both out of breath. We sitting here talking about some, yeah, bitch, we're not going back downstairs. No. They ask what happened. We tell Maddie what happened, and Madison's like, "What are you going to do if it follows you?" I'm like, "I wish this motherfucker would follow me." And that's my problem right there. I sat here and said, I wish this motherfucker would follow me. Yep, I do too much of this. I need to learn how to stop. So we end up talking our shit, leaving. I end up home. Get home. It's the dead of fucking winter. Julian's at work. My fiance's at work. So I get in the house. First red flag that oh, hell no. See, even talking about this shit scaring me. So I get home. First red flag should have been my fucking bedroom door was open. I don't never leave my bedroom door open. I have a cat that likes to claw stuff up. He's not allowed in here without supervision. Second red flag, he was still in the living room. That's how I know. That's how I should have known something was wrong. Bedroom door was open. My cat was still in the living room. He wasn't in my bedroom. That should have been the first red flag. So I hear my fiance's voice come out of my bedroom. And he's like, "Hey, babe, how are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, babe, I'm doing good. I'm going to come give you a kiss, but I got to use the bathroom first." I go to the bathroom first, and it's still talking to me. The voice is still talking to me. I don't see where the voice is coming from, but I know it's coming from my bedroom. So I'm in the bedroom, and I'm talking. He's talking. It's talking. Whatever the fuck it goes by. It's still having a conversation with me. We're literally, I'm like enthralled in this conversation, having a full intellectual conversation, explaining my day, how it went. I even told him about the mishap one of my residents had. And I kid you not, as I crack the bathroom door open because like I can't hear because it starts to get a little muffled. So I'm like, babe, I'm gonna crack the bedroom. Hold on, say that again. I open the bathroom door, just a little bit, and I'm so deep in my phone on my phone on Royal Match. I'm not trying to plug them. I swear to God, I'm playing the little Royal Match game, and I swear to God, I see the door open a little bit more than how I had it, and as I'm like talking, I see something like stand in the doorway, and I'm thinking that my fiance came to be fucking be a fucking weirdo because like we play like that, so I'm thinking it's him. But I swear to God on my granny ashes, when I looked up, this creature, this being, this entity, whatever you want to call it, when I looked up, it had my fiance's face. But the only difference about my fiance that it didn't it had red and gold eyes. I swear on my granny ashes, bro, on my altar to Aphrodite, it had red and gold eyes, and it was looking at me. I couldn't do shit but scream. I legitimately screamed. Like it was a full final girl scream. Like it was just. It was bad. Like it was terrifying. Like I felt like my heart fell out of my ass. Like it was terrifying. And as like I scream, it runs. And then my fiance just so happens to come in, and he's like running towards me because like he hears me screaming. He thinks something wrong. He's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And I'm like, that was not you? Was that not you? Oh my God, was that not you? And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Bro, there was something in the house, man. There was something in the house." Girl, I finished up using the bathroom. I had him check the house to make sure that I was not alone, like to make sure like it was gone. I called Madison after that to have her come to cleanse my house. I was so like I couldn't even focus on doing it myself. I had Madison come to my house and cleanse it, and I will tag her in the video, and she will literally confirm that this has happened. Like I was like, and even just thinking about it, I'm like, just thinking about it, and then like. It was like what really was like the scariest part about it was it wasn't like a masked shadow. It was like a solid human being. Like if you could see me, like that's what it was. And I did not sleep that night. Like I remember I didn't sleep that night. I ain't go, not for legal reasons. This is a joke, but I took one of Juju's Adderalls to go to work the next morning because I did not go to sleep. Like, it was so terrible. That was the most terrifying shit I have ever been through. But yeah, that's my scary story. That's my story with the paranormal. But I have a couple more. I could tell y'all about the time I had a dream that I danced with a demon.
This spooky story submission is actually so terrifying that it led to the person who was telling me the story to end up in the hospital because of this. So for the story, we're going to call her Danielle, and I'm going to tag her below. We're calling her Danielle because that's what her childhood friends and her family used to call her. So until Danielle was about 14 or 15 years old, she lived on 78 acres of land. She said that in that 78 acres of land, only about 3 other people lived on that land. So it was a pretty secluded area, and Danielle really liked to play outside. That was her favorite thing to do. She loved watching the deers, the rabbits, but her favorite was climbing trees. One thing that really bothered her though is that her mother would never let her play outside after dark, and we're talking like not even after the sunset. As the sun started setting. She didn't like this, but she obviously obeyed it because it was her mother and so she had to. Until one day, her mother decides that she is going to go out to a friend's house and Danielle doesn't want to go with her. But if Danielle doesn't go with her, it means that she's going to be left alone. Her and her mother decide that this is okay and that Danielle is old enough to handle this, so she stays home alone and her mom leaves at about 3 p.m. Danielle decides that she's going to go outside and she's going to play in the woods. She said that she was outside climbing trees when she felt this overwhelming feeling of being watched. It was overwhelming and it felt like it was coming from above her. But she keeps looking up and she's not seeing anything, so she's thinking that maybe her mind's just playing tricks on her, and she kind of shrugs it off. At some point it starts to get dark and she knows that she's supposed to go home, but she doesn't want to go home, and she's home alone so she can do what she wants, so she decides that she's going to stay outside. At around 7:30 p.m. when the sun had already set, she starts hearing a noise, and it's her mother calling her name. She's calling for her to come home. So Danielle is like, oh crap, I gotta get home. So she starts walking home, but she still has this overwhelming feeling of being watched. When all of a sudden she starts hearing twigs and leaves snapping behind her. So she looks behind her, but she doesn't see anything. She finally gets home and she realizes that her mom is not home. So while she's outside, she calls her mom and she's like, Mom, were you home? Like, I just heard you calling my name. And her mom was like, I have not been home this entire time. I'm still at my friend's house. She said this really freaked her out and she decided to turn around and look in the woods, and she looked over and she sees a dark figure standing outside in the woods. This freaks her out. So she runs inside, she slams the door and she deadbolts it shut. She then goes over to the window and she looks outside of her blinds to see if it's still there, and of course it is not there. She again decides that she's going to shrug this off. Maybe her eyes are just playing tricks on her and she decides to make dinner. This feeling of being watched, this overwhelming feeling, follows her until the morning. And she said that she didn't feel like she was being watched by one thing. She felt like she was being watched by like several things. She decides to go to her camera because they have cameras in the house, and there's a new video popped up. And I'm assuming that they were motion censored. She didn't say in the email, but she did say that there was a new video. So she looks at it and she doesn't see anything, but she hears this tapping sound on their front door. It's important to note right now that their front door is a big metal door that her mom had put in when they very first moved in. Nothing is on the camera. She cannot see anything. So she decides that she's going to go outside and she's going to look at the door. Outside on the door, there are huge claw marks on this metal big door. She said that she then realized that this could not have been an animal, because if it was an animal, number one, why is it trying to get into her house? And number two, how could it make these claw marks on this big metal door her mom had installed? So this really freaked her out. So I think her way of just coping with things was just shrugging it off. So she does just that, and she goes out in the woods again, and around 7:50 p.m. she's playing in the tree, climbing it again, and she gets that overwhelming feeling again. This feeling again is feeling like it's coming from above. So she decides to look above her again, and what she saw was terrifying. She said that she looked up, and when she looked up, she saw the most figure she had ever seen in her life looking at her. Not only was it looking at her, but it was calling her name, her real name, not Danielle, her real name. But not only was it calling her name, it was in her mother's voice again. Danielle is absolutely terrified at this, and she starts bolting home, and the entire time she's running home, she can hear this thing running after her. She calls her mother on her way home, and she was absolutely bawling her eyes out. Her mom gets home and she assures her that it's nothing, and that everything is going to be okay, and that it's not a big deal, and that she was probably just seeing things. Danielle did say that this experience was so distraught to her and scared her so badly that she actually ended up being hospitalized for 2 or 3 months because of it. She said she couldn't eat, sleep, drink, nothing. The crazy thing about this is that this is not even the only thing that happened to Danielle. Something else happened to her that even traumatized her further. This is getting really long, so I'm gonna have to make a part 2 on it. If you guys want to hear that second part, that partly also contributed to her being in the hospital, then drop it in the comments and I will make a part 2 and tell you guys that story. That story is even scarier. So what do you guys think of this? What do you guys think this was? Like, this terrified her so much that she's still in therapy to this day. And the second thing that happened to her definitely didn't help at all. So drop in the comments for part 2. Also, if you guys have anything to say to her or anything to like help her feel better, please also drop that in the comments. She could use all the love and support that she could get right now. She is going to see it. I am going to tag her. Thank you so much for your submission, Danielle, and thank you for letting me tag you. You are the first person that has let me tag you, so I appreciate that. And if you guys want to send me your true scary stories, then there's an email in my bio. Just go ahead and email me there, and I will come on here and I will tell your story. You do not have to be tagged if you do not want to. My name is Kaisa. I tell you scary stories that are true every single night. So if you like that, then hit that follow button, engage from the bottom up, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much and have a spooky night.
82% of CIA agents are men, which is crazy to me, because one time I used a guy's public Venmo transaction history and his Twitter likes to figure out that he was also seeing a girl across the country. And I just don't believe a man could do that.
I didn't think this story was going to be as scary as it was, but it definitely is, so let me just start. So this guy says that when he was younger, one of his distant aunts passed away. He says that he really didn't know her, but he could tell the big impact that her death made on the family. Since they all traveled into the town that she passed away at, they sent him to go and spend the night with his cousins. He explains how they weren't going to stay at the cousin's house, but at their cousin's grandmother's house. He had never met their grandmother until then, and he explains how she was really nice and even asked him to call her Mama Mama Carmen. And no, it was not his grandmother. He was related to the uncle. The aunt was by law married, and his aunt, so it was the mom's mom, so not his grandmother, but his cousin's grandmother. I hope that makes sense. He explains that Mama Carmen's house was really big and it was made out of wood and it was so pretty, but he knew that there was just something off or weird about it. So when nighttime came, they directed him to this really big room in the house, and the older cousin said something to him that just like threw him off. Before walking out of the bedroom, his cousin tells him, hey, whatever you do, just don't respond to them. And he was like, what? What do you mean? And the cousin tells him, just don't respond to the voices. Don't respond to the thing that's gonna talk to you from under the bed. Bitch, if you think I was about to stay there, I'm gonna go wherever you're going after that, cause what the hell? However, he knew his cousins and how much they play around, all the pranks they've done on him in the past. So he was just like, ugh, this is another prank, so whatever, yeah, I won't listen to the voices. He also admits that when his cousins would stay at his house, he would also scare them, so obviously he just thought this was a joke. So he ends up falling asleep and then wakes up to a voice calling him by his name. Felipe. He thought he was dreaming, but as he opened his eyes, he could have sworn that he heard that last little Felipe. Not me giving myself goosebumps right now. So he's laying there very still, awake, and hears nothing. And as he's drifting off to sleep again, he hears that voice again. Felipe. This time, he recognized the voice calling him by name. It had been a very long time since he had heard that voice. It was almost like he had forgotten what that voice sounded like, and it was because it was his mom's voice. His mother, who was no longer living. He immediately gets up and starts walking towards the door. He says he doesn't even want to look back. He doesn't even have the courage to look back and see what is underneath the bed, but he exits the room. However, when he finally makes it to the door where his cousins were sleeping, he said that he felt embarrassed. He thought to himself, if I go in there and tell them that I'm scared or tell them that I heard voices, they're never gonna let it go. I'm gonna have to hear this for the rest of my life, and he didn't want to deal with that. He said that it took him a minute to grow some courage, but he just turned around and went right back to the bedroom that he was sleeping in. He walks down the hallway, goes into the room, lays down, and he's laying there for a good minute. And finally, he is drifting off to sleep, and that is when he hears the voice again. Felipe, I forgive you. You have nothing to forgive me for, he said, half asleep, responding to the voice. You wish for me to die, but I forgive you. The voice responded. So this is where Felipe finally starts telling us a story about what happened with his mom back when she was alive. And he says that he has to confess something that he had never told anyone. His mom was really sick, so sick that she fell into like some sort of paralysis on her body. And he had to take care of the mom because the dad basically abandoned them when this happened because he couldn't deal with it. So can you imagine, like, the mom fell into paralysis, the dad left because he just couldn't deal with it, and he left his son to take care of a fully grown adult. He does say that the dad did continue to send them money to help out around the house, but he never showed up. He stopped playing outside with the neighborhood kids. He stopped doing his homework. He didn't go to school anymore. And all he did all day long, 24/7, was to take care of his mom. And he admits that at that time, he really hated his life and everybody who was in it. And yes, it's true. He really wished for his dad to die for doing this to him, but he also admits that he wished for his mom to die as well. He says that he doesn't wish her dead the same way he wished his dad dead. He wished her dead just so that she can get some peace, so that she wouldn't be in pain, and so that he can also just be a kid again. And he says that it was really hard to take care of her because she couldn't eat by herself, she couldn't shower by herself, she couldn't even go to the restroom. So it was things that he had to do for her, and it was a lot. But that desire for his mom to die was something that he never told anyone, not a single soul. And this is in fact the very first time that he's writing this down for this podcast to share with the world. So we go back to the voice telling him that she forgives him for wishing her dead. He is more asleep than awake when he asks for forgiveness to the voice that sounds like his mom. He admits that he doesn't know if it was really his mom or what was underneath that bed, but because of what the voice said, he wanted to ask for forgiveness, and he actually put his hand down underneath the bed. He didn't know what he expected. He didn't know if he expected somebody to grab his hand, for someone to say that he's forgiven, but he put his hand down there and actually fell asleep with his hand just hanging there. After falling asleep, he was awoken by a weird sound, and when he opened his eyes is when he felt a sensation of something touching his hand. He explains how the hand felt really rough, and it was definitely coming from underneath that bed. At first he thought he was dreaming, but no, this was definitely not a dream. He was definitely awake. So by this point, the hand was already grabbing at his chest, and he was terrified. He said his heart was beating so fast. However, his curiosity won over the fear that he was feeling. So he literally moved to the edge of the bed and looked to see what was coming out from underneath the bed. What he saw was this very long, gray, old-looking hand coming from underneath that bed. It was fucked up. It was scary. As he was looking at the hand, he could see his hand next to that other hand, so he knew he was awake, but he couldn't take in what he was seeing. It was a lot, and it was crazy. He said at that point his body became very cold. He was very stiff, and he can still look at his hand and at the hand grabbing at it now, like they're trying to pull him down. And in that very moment, as he's being pulled down, the voice is saying, "I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you." Over and over again. It was at this moment that voice completely changed. It didn't even sound like his mom's voice anymore, and it sounded like it was making fun of him. So now the voice was like mocking him, saying, "Do you forgive me? Do you forgive me?" Like over and over. He said that the way the voice changed was like it was using his mom's voice, and then all of a sudden it was just not his mom at all. So like it was trying to trick him. For some reason, this reminds me of Leprechaun. Have you guys seen it, where like his voice changes? That was also the moment where he remembered what his cousin told him. If a voice is talking to you, do not respond. He wanted to take that advice, so he decided to stay quiet, but at that moment it was too late. He had already talked back to the voice. Without knowing what to do, he said that he literally bit his mouth so that he wouldn't talk anymore, closed his eyes, and just stayed very still. He even tried to like let go of the hand that was holding him, but the more he tried to let go of the hand, the more the hand was trying to pull him underneath the bed. "Felipe, let me go. I'm getting scared. I can't do it. Felipe, let me go. Felipe, let me go." That's what the voice was telling him now. He finally understood that that was not his mom. That was not his mom's ghost. That was not his mom at all. It was actually the complete opposite of what his mom was. So he fought. He said that he fought for the longest time. He tried to hit. He tried to hold on to the bed. He was not about to let this thing drag him under. And he was successful because it finally like let go of his hand from all the fighting that he was doing. And when that happened, he immediately turned to like the side of the bed where the wall is, where that thing cannot reach him. He said that he sat there next to the wall on the bed, just like waiting for a hand to come up and try to get him again. And it was like the longest silence he had ever experienced. But that was also when the sun finally came out and he heard somebody in the kitchen. He literally jumped off the bed to the door into the kitchen, and it was Mama Carmen that was in there. He told Mama Carmen everything that had happened in the bedroom the entire night. He admits that she never interrupted him. She heard everything he had to say. When he finally finished telling her what happened, she just looked at him, smiled at him, and said, "You shouldn't give anything that much importance." That surely it was a hallucination or he was dreaming. That maybe it was because of him going to the cemetery and funerals because of that aunt that passed away that might have caused him to hallucinate or have these types of dreams. She also asked him not to pay attention or to listen to his cousins because they're little scaredy cats and they also love scaring people but were scared as well. She told Felipe that they used to sleep in that bedroom and then didn't want to sleep in that bedroom anymore, so maybe they made it up so that no one could sleep in there. Sorry, what? You're telling me that they've experienced this, but you're saying they made it up because what? She said that she believes that they made up this story so that they can move out of that bedroom and somebody else occupy the space that they were always scared to sleep in. He admits that he would have loved to believe her saying that they made this up, but how would they explain the voice? How could he explain the things that the voice was saying that only he knew? Now I'm curious as to what his cousins experienced in that room, because it's obvious that they've experienced something. He was like, there's no way that they could have pranked me with my mom's voice and saying things that I had never told anybody. So yeah, she doesn't want me to be scared, but I believe my cousins and I believe they experienced something in there. He also says that he's never gonna forget what that hand looked like. Like, that was not a dream. That was not something that he dreamt of. He was awake and he was there. But man, I would not know what to do if that happened to me. What do you guys think?
Hey guys, so I have another story for you. This is an older story. I've shared it before. I'm going to condense it down to one video. This is probably without question the spookiest call I've ever been on in my law enforcement career, and I hope it never gets topped. But anyhow, it was several years ago. I was on the overnight shift. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. It was around Halloween time, so it's already got that spooky season feel. This elderly gentleman who lived out in the country, he drove to town for whatever reason and went to this 24/7 gas station, asked the clerk if he could use the phone to call 911. The clerk, of course, said yes. He calls 911 and tells dispatch something along the lines of like, my wife's missing or she's been kidnapped or something, yada, yada, yada. And to have the officer meet me at our residence. So I go to the residence, and as I pull up and I get out, I don't see any red flags, if you will. Normally in a situation like this, you would see or hear some commotion. You would have something standing out to you. I'm not getting that. It looks very calm, very quaint. I don't know what I'm really walking into at this point. I have terrible officer awareness. I walk up the driveway and I pass his truck, and he hops out of the truck behind me, and as I turn around, he's got a handgun. And he's extremely agitated and upset and emotional at the fact that his wife is missing or kidnapped or whatever it was. So after a few minutes of coaxing the handgun from him and make it safe, I put it on the hood of his truck. I'm like, okay, talk to me, what's going on? And he says, okay, follow me to the house. So I follow him to the house, and as he gets to the door, he says, and I will never forget this, he says, do you believe in God? And I said, yes, I do. And he says, good. And that means you believe in the devil. And I'm like, what? So he opens the door. He says, forgive me for all the candles. He says, that's the only way we can keep it out or something like that. And there's no candles, but yet he's tiptoeing through the living room like he doesn't want to step over these mysterious candles. There's no candles. So as I'm walking in the living room and all the furniture's gone, it's just an empty room. Like, I don't know if they're moving or they just moved in. It's just completely bare and empty. Although at every window around the home, I see a rifle or a shotgun, and I see spent shell casings and bullet casings. And I'm like, hey, bro, what's up with this? And he said, oh, I've been shooting out at these demons outside all night, trying to keep them out from coming in the house. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, well, we're not going to have that right now. So he lets me make all of his firearms safe, and talking to him, trying to figure out where his wife may be. And then we're in this cabin-esque home, and there's a loft, and I see above us his elderly wife comes to the edge of the loft, and she's wearing this white, like, robe, you know, like something Ebenezer Scrooge would wear. A little creepy looking, you know, and she's just standing there staring down at us. And I'm like, all right, she seems sensible. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to talk to her, because obviously he's the issue and we need to get him some mental health treatment. So I'm like, hey, I found her. And he's like, oh, that's great news. That's great news. You know, he's all excited. He's calmed down now. He's like, she's safe. She's sound. Good to go. So I'm like, we should be in and out in 5 minutes. So as I walk up the steps, I go up there and I talk to her, and I'm like, hey, ma'am, your husband's having some mental health issues. And she's like, I know. And she's like, I don't know what to do with him. I'm like, I get it. You know, boys will be boys, but I'm going to have to take him to the hospital. And I'm like, I'm going to probably need you to help me out and, you know, convince him to go with me. And I think we're on the same page. And all of a sudden she says, am I in trouble? And I'm like, no. Why would you be in trouble? And she's like, well, I'm curious. And I'm like, well, he's not in any trouble either. But why did you say, are you in trouble? Like, there's something not right about how she said it. And she said, well, because I fed it. I'm like, fed what? She's like, I was feeding the devil babies. And I'm like, what? Like, I get it. He's having a mental health issue, but it's very rare, if not impossible, in my opinion, to have two people having both the same mental health issues. And I'm like, run that back again. And she said, I stole babies, and the only way I could keep the devil happy and away from us, because he broke into the home, was to throw them over the loft because I'm only safe when I'm up here, elevated, and the devil's down there. I throw the babies over the loft or the balcony, and the devil feeds them. Or I feed the devil. But the problem is he won't leave me alone now. He's attached to me, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go back down and talk to your husband. He's the more sensible one. I'm like, I'm never sleeping again. So I go down the steps. I talk to the husband. I'm like, bro, both you and your wife are going to have to take a trip with me to the hospital. And he is now freaking out. He's trying to run outside. I don't know why. I'm trying to wheel him in. I'm like, dude, I don't want you to go out there. It's pitch black. It's the middle of the night. Like, what is it out there that you need to do? And he's like, I need to get the devil away. I need to get the devil away from my house. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, the devil is throwing the babies into the fire. And I'm like, what? And he said the demons are dancing around the fire, and the devil is in the middle, and he's throwing the babies in the fire, and it's making the fire bigger, and I have to go put out the fire. And I'm like, bro, come back to reality. There is nothing out there. I am looking, and it is pitch black out there. And he's like, oh, you messed up. He's like, you just pissed them off. They're all looking at you now. And he's like, oh, they're running over here. They're running over here. And I'm like, well, shut the shades. Like, I shut the shades, and I'm like, now I'm wigging out. And I'm like, all right, look, we need to come back to reality. Luckily at that time, another deputy shows up. The ambulance shows up. We both convince them to go to the hospital and get some mental health treatment. They do the same thing at the hospital. The doctor's like, I'm going to send him away, and hopefully we can get this fixed. They went away for a few days. They came back, and I never dealt with them again. I never had to go to the house again. Sadly, I did hear that the elderly lady later passed on a few years later. But to this day, I've never had a call where both people were suffering from the same delusion. And in my opinion, there was something extra sinister involved there that's beyond what medicine or therapy could solve, if you will. But I want to know your thoughts.